a new rise. Can somebody lift those hands and say, it's a new rise. I need you to speak it over your own life tonight. It's a new rise. It's a new rise.
Hello, hello, hello. Good evening. I'm Megan DiMartino, and this is the Propel Your Business and Life Deep Dive. We do this every week, and it is streamed out to YouTube, to LinkedIn, to Instagram, Facebook, and I am so thrilled that I'm able to reach people all over the world that way. And then, of course, you can then listen to the replay on YouTube, which is also a podcast. And now we're converting them all to the Propel Business and Life podcasting on all the podcasting platforms. Tonight, I was having a special guest come in with me, Brian Colletto, and I don't know where Brian is. I really don't. So I'm going to visit with you tonight until he comes in. My producer, Andrew Moore, is, hello, Brian.
Good evening.
Hi, welcome to the deep dive. So I was just about to say, I'm sure you heard me possibly that I didn't see you yet, but before I introduce you, let me just do a little intro, okay? So I was sharing that this is the Propel Your Business and Life Deep Dive, which we do every week, and it's streamed out to LinkedIn and YouTube, as well as Instagram and Facebook. And my producers, Elizabeth Hauser and Angeline Moore, are now converting them all to podcasts. And so that's very exciting. And so YouTube has a podcasting platform. So these have all been on that since the beginning, but we're now going to be on Spotify and all of the other platforms. So that's an exciting thing, and they're happening, and they're working backwards, Brian. So yours will be up momentarily, as well as the last couple of weeks. So then they'll work back to March of last year when we started the Propel Deep Dive. But this is part of my Propel community, and this is what I wanted to share in my intro before I introduce Brian. And the challenge tonight is Angeline, and it's not a challenge because, hey, this is life. Angeline is with her family this evening doing a teacher child, the kids teacher parent conference. So for one of her sons, so she's double timing. She's doing this, on the fly, and she's just a master at all of this. So I thank you, Angeline, so very much. So anyhow, this is part of the Propel program, and Propel, I started about 2.5 years ago, maybe 3 now, where I put together from all my years of starting, scaling, and sustaining businesses, and ostensibly in the spa industry, but business is business, 2 skincare brands and a luxury day clinical medical wellness spa. And I have built those and sold 2 of those businesses, and I'm off to starting in the last 2 years a new regenerative wellness clinic, along with my clinical skincare products, the Novitas Spa Clinicals. So when I sold a portion of that in 20, I knew it was incumbent upon me to give back and put together a program that would help others start, scale, and sustain their business. So you can go on my megandimartino.com and see the Propel Your Business and Life Activation Program. And then I started from there building a community. And that is what I call the Propel community, where we come together and we work together. And with that community, there is the Propel Daily, a little nugget of inspiration and encouragement from me, a weekly newsletter. I call it the Motivation Mindset newsletter. And then you will receive information about, for instance, the Propel Deep Dive and my guests, such as Brian Colletto. And also tomorrow, drum roll please, I'm doing the first, yay, Brian, I'm doing the first of many. This is going to be the beginning of what I call the Propel. Basically, it's a live, and people call these summits, but I'm calling it a challenge. So it's the Propel expansion, and it's going to help you empower your business and life with a challenge. And I have so many gals and guy, one man joining us tomorrow, that is going to be with me from 10 o'clock East Coast through 3 o'clock. And at noon, we're going to do a panel. And so Marcus Ellis, I call him the music man, is kicking it off with some of his white tie ensemble music. And then I'll be speaking to he about his essence of what his field of favor. And then we'll go into Ramona Rogers, Araya McGarry, and then at noon, a panel of Barbara Majeski, Summer Day, Rachel Weaver, and Dr. Tangi Brewer, and then closing with Katie Mars. And so I chose to have Katie pull up the end because of where she is in her life, what she's doing in her life, and will be really pulling together everything that we have spoken. But we are going to challenge you to identify, to implement, and integrate into your business your goals and your visions that you have been sitting on, wanting to do, marinating on, and helping you put those together. And this, as I said, that's why I said drum roll, please, because this is going to be a quarterly challenge that we're going to do, but that in between, there'll be other programs that you will hear about and be notified with the Propel Challenge, the Propel community. So do join the Propel community. You will not be disappointed with what you receive with that. So without further ado, this is Propel Deep Dive, and my guest this evening is Brian Colletto. And before I have Brian begin to share, I just want to kind of give you a thumbnail sketch. I met Brian on Clubhouse, and Brian is just a treasure of a human. He is so committed to not only the autism community, but also humans, people. He has a beautiful heart and a heart to connect, and that's where he and I have aligned. Because my superpower, if you want to call it, is really encouragement, encouraging others to really identify their dreams, goals, and desires and implement them. And Brian has that same heart. And we all have our, as my mother would say, cross to bear in life. And God uses those crosses to, or challenges, whatever you want to call them, to really hone our spirits. Jeremiah 29:11 says that he knows the plans for our life. And so it's incumbent upon us to pray, to listen, to read the word, to get to know the Spirit of God, to be guided in the way and the ways of he wants to lead us. And so Brian, I met on Clubhouse, and during the lockdown period of 20 then on. And when I started the Propel community, he started coming in and becoming an integral part of it. And up until a couple weeks ago on StreamYard, we had a program where I would interview a person, but then open it up to people that were in the green room. But because I decided it was time to do the podcasting, it was time to evolve it one more time. And nothing stays the same, guys. Nothing. And you have to really pay attention to that and know when it is time to, the world often calls it pivoting. I call it evolving, because one step leads to the next. And so when I called Brian and said, I'm really sorry, because I know you're enjoying this, but we'll have other platforms where they'll be integrating, where you can, talk with the guests. But it's time to really take this to another place and take these interviews, so to speak, and conversations and put them on podcasting platforms. And so I then said to Brian, I would love you to be a guest on the deep dive. And he said, I would love that. And I was so pleased. And then he said, but Megan, This is last month. He said, Megan, next month is Autism Awareness Month. Perfect. So I said, then you are going to kick off the first Wednesday of April. And so here is my guest, my friend, and here is Brian Colletto. Long introduction, my friend, but a lot to share and a lot to say.
Thank you so much, Megan. Good evening, everyone. I'm pleased to be here and be part of this Propel Deep Dive, my first time as a guest. Um, in case anyone may not know about me, I do have a regular job. I'm a marketing administrator for a nonprofit in central New Jersey that provides job employment for adults with special needs 21 and over throughout the county that we're located in. And I am also an autism advocate, influencer, and speaker in training. And I'm on the spectrum myself. And uh, and I do a lot of videos about that through all the different platforms you can think of, not just talking about my journey, but how it affects other people as well. And more recently, in fact, last month, I got voted onto a local chamber board. I won't officially be inducted until this December, but I can start attending meetings immediately.
Wow.
So I'm very happy about
Wow.
that.
Brian, wow. Well, let's take a step away and then we're going to go there. But I want to go back because I do this with every guest, and you've listened to me now for a year and a couple of months, to share a little bit about young Brian, because what I want to accomplish and have hoped that I have accomplished with the deep dive is to help people dive deeper in a person, meaning not just the highlight reel, but to go deeper and have people who are listening to this, not only tonight, but also on replays and podcasting of this show, to hear your essence, to hear your story, because I may not have autism, but I have other challenges. And with that said, I think I have a perceptual numeric, and I don't know, I think there is a name for it, but it's not a dyslexic thing, but it's a visual thing. And my mother was almost 40 when I was born, and she was 42 when my brother Albert was born, and she lost two children in between my other two siblings. And so she was on a lot of drug medication structure. And Albert is very dyslexic. And so I am very aware, and back in the day in the 50s, Brian, when
Mm.
Albert and I were children, because we're just 18 months apart, we went to Catholic school, and the nuns just did not understand his learning disability. They did not. And they skewered him. They really did. My mother was a very, very bright gal and a college graduate. And she knew that he was not what they said he was. And she actually had him tested at Malloy College in Queens, New York. And his IQ is very, very high, of course, And so Albert was my shadow, or we were buds, and we still are. And he lives in Tennessee. And with that said, I'm very highly aware of people with challenges and special needs, I guess. But I look at it as challenge. We all have challenges, and it's how we approach those. So I want you to go back to when you first remember Brian, and if you don't mind, and you can tell me to take a hike if you do, and I won't be insulted, but share with our guests, if you are so inclined, of yourself when you realized there was a challenge.
I noticed it immediately. upon growing up as a kid. I can remember, I, I think it was a preschool program that the place where I would go to high school had. And I remember that I did not want my mother to leave. I would hold on to her um, because I think it was overwhelming. I may have had some separation anxiety.
Hmm.
Um, and that was, I think, when I was 4, which was when I was diagnosed.
Hmm.
And then I remember that the closest elementary school to me did not have special education at the time, so we went to the second closest, which was not too far from our home. Um, but yeah, I do remember. Um, I remember how hard it was for many students to understand me. I remember getting made fun of a lot, um, and being told to essentially keep quiet, and I'll save other terms from being said on here. Um, but things like that
Hmm.
as I was growing up as a kid. So friendship was definitely really hard.
Hmm.
Um, but I
What
can
year,
also remember
and what year was when you were like going into pre-K and K and all that? What year was that?
that was 1993, 94, I think.
Okay. Wow. So many, many years later, and still the academic structure wasn't really set up to assist. And so I, I would like to ask you this, follow up from what you just said. Would you say that once you recognized it when you went to the nursery school, and do you remember that actually, or is that just a story that you've been told? Do you remember that feeling of when mom was dropping you off at the nursery school?
I vaguely remember the
Yeah,
feeling of it
right.
at the little nursery
Yeah,
program that
mhm,
my high school that I would graduate from
right,
um,
right.
had. Yeah.
The reason I ask that is that Albert and I have talked about this, and Albert is one of the, he's very similar spirit as you, meaning he's just a lovely guy and just a very kind person and very bright and very questing of knowledge. And and I've asked him, we've talked about this, and he said, you know, I always felt that it was, I never took it personally, is what he said. He just said, I just never took it personally, Megan. You know, and I mean, he was happy to uh, change schools. You know, he did share that. But like you were saying, but other than that, he said, I just never allowed it to really embed in his spirit. And the other reason he shared with me, so I'm going to ask you this, is he said because our parents, my parents, his parents, didn't allow that, you know, meaning they didn't treat him any differently. You know, so what about your own folks? Did they struggle with it? Because I see that today where it's parents do struggle with that a child that may have other needs than just, oh, go over there, Johnny, you know, and do whatever. Were your parents part of the solution, or did they not understand?
Oh, they were part of the solution.
Right.
Um, my it was more so my mother that
Mm-hmm.
was involved. My mom really fought hard for my education through different board of ed meetings, um, IEPs. My father had to focus more on his health because his health started to become a challenge when I was a young kid.
Oh,
So right around that time when I was diagnosed was essentially when my father would have his first of what would become a few um, major health challenges uh, during the past 30 years.
mm.
Um, so, um,
God bless your mom. Wow. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Wow. So yeah, so and I really I wanted to I knew that you would say that because I've paid attention to your family unit and again because I'm heightened to because of Albert. You know, I when I someone comes into my sphere that has a challenge, I'm very aware of that. And even though I haven't met you in real time or your mom, certainly I can see that your parents were a part of the solution and not part of the problem because your spirit would not be as lovely as it is, you know. And so as life went on, and obviously, you know, you got a good education and your parents made sure of that, especially your mom, the advocate. And and so you mentioned several times where you graduated from high school, and so you've lived in the same area, which is also I personally think is a good thing, because it's that consistency. Would you agree with that?
for sure. I would agree with that. Yeah, I have lived in Edison, New Jersey my whole life, the
Mhm.
town that Susan Sarandon comes from.
Okay. Oh wow, her sister, I forget her name now. I went to Marymount in Arlington, Virginia, and her
Mhm.
sister, younger sister, you probably know her. She was in my dorm on the same floor, a couple rooms down, dorm rooms down. Yeah, I forget her name. But anyway, so yes, Susan Sarandon for sure. And Bull Durham, right? Wasn't that one of her big movies? Susan Sarandon with Kevin Costner, I think. Anyway, getting off the subject there. But anyhow, so you've lived in Edison, New Jersey, I was going to say Texas, central New Jersey, your entire life. And so share with our guests about when you started volunteering at, at the facility that you now work at. Share a little bit about that, meaning the transition. I guess the question is really your transition from high school to what the next step, your evolution, Brian.
Yes. Thank you, Megan. So it took over a year after I graduated from Edison High School before I landed the opportunity to volunteer where I work now, and I remember that I went through a few different agencies where I struggled to find that first job. Um, I turned down some greater opportunities, including the post office. I've posted about that in the past,
Mm-hmm.
um, and and there were times, and especially in 2008, my parents were definitely not the happiest when I had turned it down not once but twice. Um, they started to question about my ability to work. Um, I was just I was keeping in mind their situations as well. Um, my father hasn't driven in a long, long time, and my my mother has a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I kept in mind. Plus I didn't have a car yet or a driver's license. I would get that shortly after I started volunteering at ESW,
Mm-hmm.
Occupational Services, and um, and but eventually, yes, the summer of 2008, my mother mentioned about ESW, where she's been a board member since 2000, and and so I decided to take the walk there. I filled out the application. The director at the time was very uh, warm and welcoming, and even followed up with me. And at that time, I didn't have a cell phone. So just as the cell phone was starting to get very popular
Mhm.
when I was in high school, I didn't have it. So I I I started volunteering, and that would last 5 months until I was offered the job. And that was also when I had my services transferred to ESW to get there. And
Mhm.
I've been with ESW ever since. So
Mhm.
clearly, money sacrificed was worth it for an environment that's very comfortable for me. And 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 they put up with my uneasiness at times because I was I used to be very uh, uptight at times about getting something else and being like most of the world when it
Mhm.
comes to a full time job.
Mhm.
Um,
So
but yeah,
let me interrupt for a sec about the post office, because I think this is a very important piece. Um, your parents, or your mom specifically, but your dad as well, felt that you needed to, quote unquote, get a job. And you finished school and get a job. And that was a good job, let's call it that. It had, longevity to it. People finish working at the post office or government jobs and they get retirement and pensions and things like that. So they were looking after you, perceiving that this would be a good long term job for you, but you turned it down. So why did you turn it down?
the orientation left a sour taste in my mouth. It could have been the person that was doing it. And my job coach at that time um, later went to that place to speak with that person and echoed the same thing that I felt, which
Mhm.
was that the person was not very welcoming. They were like, sort of just annoyed. Um,
Mhm.
and I didn't want that kind of a feel
Yes.
at, at the
Right.
job. And I
Right.
also didn't want abnormal hours that were going to make things a little bit crazier on my mom as it related to transportation.
Right. Right.
And
But I think the very important piece to this is that you were aware of your needs and what felt comfortable and right for you. And you were very assured in yourself to say no. That is a very important piece to a successful life, is to really know, what makes your heart happy, that peace, that joy, that love. And if you're not there, and people take things and stay with things for way too long because they perceive that it's the right thing to do, but you had the guts, the grit and the guts to stay, no. But ultimately, I'm sure your mom and your father have said, wow, I'm glad that you didn't do that. Have they actually spoken about that with you?
oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
um, I remember they said that like within a year after um, I turned it down because that was when the economy took a big downturn
Mm-hmm.
and there were a lot of layoffs.
Right.
So so yeah, they were happy with that.
Mhm.
Plus also it would become evident in my first year of being employed that I needed some uh, development skills
Mhm.
for the workplace that a post office wasn't going to provide.
No, no, would not. They just expected you to jump in and do whatever. Yes. So this company, this nonprofit, has really honed your skills, which you are flourishing in today. So share with our guests. Basically, like you said, you recognized you needed some, on the job training and to expand your innate talents, but share with us some of those things, because now and then ultimately share what your position is today.
Sure. So some of the growth things that I needed were learning about how a chain of command works,
Mm-hmm.
for one, and also respecting other people's time, their lunch breaks, things like that. Things that didn't quite always occur to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's part of my autism, that
Yeah.
sometimes certain things just don't occur,
Right.
especially during those days.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, you didn't have the experience, so why would they? Yes.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I will say too that as time went on, um, I realized that what I really needed outside of working part time wasn't another job. It was that I needed other community groups
Mm-hmm.
um, to be a part of outside of work.
Mm-hmm.
That um, it's a long story, but it. I mean, I used the power of social media
Mm-hmm.
to find people to reach out to and groups to
Mm-hmm.
try to be a part of.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
you're a master connector. You can very clearly see that you're doing that. It's very, if you follow guys, Brian Colletto on social media, you will see all of this reaching out as he just shared. But before we go there, I do want to go there because about again being blessed with this position on the board of one of these not of these or I guess it's a chamber of one of the organizations. But
yeah,
before we go there, and so you. Um, when I first met you, let's just go back to that. You were doing what you just said, meaning building your social media platforms and LinkedIn specifically, and Instagram and Facebook and the like, and of course the audio app Clubhouse. And with that said, that became also part of your job, correct? Meaning you integrated that into what you're doing there.
yes. So um, I was I was a production aide for 13 years before I got promoted to production assistant 2 years ago
Mm-hmm.
at ESW. And then last summer, I officially got marketing added. There were a few steps that took place before I got the marketing position.
Mm-hmm.
I was first named a co administrator of our LinkedIn page by our now director. He was acting director for the second half of 2021. And he claimed the page, our business page, had not been used much.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, we're going to start here with developing you more after all the years of stagnance.
Mm-hmm.
And so I became a co administrator of our LinkedIn page. And that was a little over a year before it got expanded to simply social media administrator, which happened because I then started posting on our Facebook page. I made the Facebook page early 2023,
Mm-hmm.
and then in the summer I officially got promoted into the marketing position, and there will be other responsibilities in the future with that job, but for now it's mainly just social media
Mhm,
and going to networking events.
mhm. And so, would you say that the ESW itself now you've raised their consciousness to how important it is? I mean, we're talking now or honoring um, and bringing a light to Autism Awareness Month, you and I here. And are
Yeah.
they seeing how beneficial it is for you to do what you're doing for ESW?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Mhm,
They they see the importance of it. They may not necessarily agree or do things the way I do, like taking risks with connecting with people through virtual platforms, like I became very accustomed to doing, not just through cold messaging, but when the pandemic hit and we were stuck on Zoom calls, and then Clubhouse
right.
and
Mhm,
other social audio that would come along later. Yeah, it's definitely benefited, and we're also doing some other very local outreach
mhm,
and helping grow um, the our agency, going from dead last and a bunch of things to being one of the, I don't want to say one of the better ones, but let's say we're an organization that can actually like really do well at what we're good at and serve the area that we serve.
mhm. Yeah, innovators. You're becoming known as innovators in the area. And so, like you shared, then let's now pivot over to or go over to the outreach and to the networking you're doing in the marketplace. So you started integrating that to what you do with social media, and there's several things that I observe, and one is not only your spirit and your personhood, but it's your consistency, Brian. You know, and in your job, in anything in life, consistency is key. Consistency is really, other than clarity, knowing what you want, it's that commitment and that consistency. Is it will not work unless you're consistent, and so you're the king of consistency. And so you're now involved in how many local chambers and other groups in the marketplace, Central Jersey?
So, uh, our organization is part of three groups, and I personally go to, I'd say, mm, probably seven or eight
Wow.
different chambers, plus other groups that are not chambers but are networking groups.
Mhm,
I've lost count because some it it's hard to explain how I find these. Some of it is just online research,
mhm,
and really, the reason I got into networking before I even knew how beneficial it would be for ESW in the future, I did it for myself
mhm,
because um, dating back to when I was participating in faith based young adult groups. These were usually Catholic young adult groups that would welcome non Catholics as well.
mhm,
Um, they, I loved the area that this particular big group that I first joined um, was in, and I had seen this was still this was still me, you know, crazy about trying to look for a different job, um, albeit in a more calm way, but
mhm,
also um, loving that particular area and thinking I could live here. I want to be more part of here. And when that young adult group stuff died down, that was when I started getting into more events. Now actual networking events didn't come along totally right away,
Mm-hmm.
but it would be through different kinds of events like street fairs that I would start meeting more people at, and essentially being the church outside of church, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and so all those little pieces that I started laying down in 2019 were the foundation for when the world shut down 4 years ago
Mm-hmm.
to um, get on all these different Zoom calls while I was home from work
Mm-hmm.
for 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't lose anything from work. They took good care of me from a distance.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I
But
needed something to do.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Well,
Besides
we all did,
doing some education, I
right?
mean, I did take some courses on Coursera during that first year of the pandemic, but I didn't do anything long term because, like, especially the first three courses, they were during a time when I could be called back to work at any point.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one was during a little bit of a winter break.
Mm-hmm.
In that first year of the pandemic. And this was when ESW was in some more flux. We had just lost our previous director in February 2020. He died.
Mm.
And so we didn't have a director when COVID hit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then there were we had a person for about 9 months, and then our now director started out as acting director during June 2021. That's when I said, when he was acting director for the second half of 2021, and then early 2022 got hired and has been our director ever since.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so,
So,
yeah.
the other piece that you said was that when you first started doing networking, not just the faith-based organizations where you were a member of, it what is very clear that you were beginning to build that muscle of socialization. Because I just want to take a minute to go over to autism and speak about autism itself, because you shared when you were a small child that that is one of the things that you found when you first were aware that you had a challenge. It was the socialization piece of kids not being welcoming to you. Let's just say that.
Mhm.
Am I fair to say that is correct?
Yeah, yeah, in a way,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. I mean, there were a few that were always welcoming,
Mm-hmm.
um, including um, a person who had died of leukemia in early 2002. Um, when I think about him, I think about the fact that when nobody else was understanding, he was, and he
Mm-hmm.
was battling his own thing.
Wow.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and
Well,
and
that's why he
so,
gets empathy, Brian. It's about walking in someone else's moccasins and really paying attention to that person as a whole. And so, as went through school and dealt with whatever challenges you were dealing with, and your mom and dad were there for you, and I'm sure other family, and your faith and your church and all of that. But then when you started networking, it was really built, like you said, why you didn't take the post office. You knew it wasn't going to be the environment for you. And so you were ready then to go out into the field, so to speak, and build that muscle of socialization. So my question to you is, what is the most, there's two questions. What is the most misunderstood about thing aspect to autism, And I'll start there. What is the most misunderstood that you want our audience to know
I
in the
think the most
Awareness Month?
I think the most misunderstood thing about autism is that it's not always what you see on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
It's also on the inside, because a lot of times people will say they wouldn't have guessed. The only a few people could actually tell that I have it,
Mm-hmm.
and usually the people that could tell that I have it are the ones that have plenty of experience with it.
Mm-hmm.
That is, um,
Mm-hmm.
so yes, that's what I think is the most misunderstood thing about autism, is that it's not always on the outside. It's more so on the inside,
Mm-hmm.
and that it is a spectrum. Some people have greater challenges
Mm-hmm.
that will live with them their whole life. Others will become a little more mild. It is a lifelong thing. There's no cure for autism,
Mm-hmm.
but some people can seem like they're functioning as so called normal,
Mm-hmm.
and others, it'll be more obvious.
Mm-hmm. 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 And what would the other question is? Um, like you said, there's a spectrum, and some do not act out, or when I say act out, people don't would not even know that they were dealing with quote unquote autism, and then others are more obvious. What can we as humans do when, I mean, because I know, and we've never had this conversation ever, but I know that you have got to be out and about, or even in your job, and deal with some individuals, and you say, oh my Lord, I wish those folks would, So, what would you say is the most important thing for a person to understand, and how, meaning, for instance, when someone is has a sight problem or this problem, that people overcompensate. They often act goofy around other people that have a challenge. What what would be something that a person could do to help a person with autism?
I think that the biggest thing would be to have patience
Mm,
with them. Um, Maybe not expect an answer at the instant moment, because that's one of my biggest thing is information processing and also decision making.
mm,
Um, and also to be as verbal as possible about if something is making that person uncomfortable, meaning somebody with autism making somebody else uncomfortable.
mhm.
Like, that uncomfortable person say something instead of just giving a nonverbal cue that they may not understand, because I've not always understood those, and sometimes I've gotten burned because of that. Um, and
What do you mean by that? Explain that.
what I mean by that is that it's it's later come out from another person, and and that and that they, in the case, there was a time before COVID where somebody felt uncomfortable at church, and because it wasn't the first time that there was some kind of comfortability issue surrounding me,
Hmm.
with certain individuals, they called me into the office at the rectory, and um, so and that was where I learned about certain things. Um, I don't want to dive too
No,
much
no,
into it,
get it. I get it. I get.
it's
But the bottom line of what you're saying is people are goofy. People are just don't look past their nose and are very self-absorbed and do not look at the party, and the person as a whole. Yes, yeah. No, it's. It's not easy. As you know, someone asked me, Brian, years ago, who was my avatar? And I said, who's my avatar? Kermit the Frog. And that person said, Kermit the Frog. And I said, well, I love Kermit because he says, it's not easy being green. So, it's not easy being human. And so we all just need to reach out, listen, and operate from a compassion place instead of what meets the eye, so to speak. So let's go now back to, though, I'm so proud. I've said I feel like a proud mama, with you. And so when you shared earlier about being nominated to join this board, but you won't be inducted until December. I thought to myself, that's really actually, but you said I can come to the board meetings. How smart is that? Because now you can really learn about this organization internally.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. So it's an annual thing. A number of chambers, they induct people. Um, there's usually a specific time of year that they do it.
Mm-hmm.
And for this particular chamber, Woodbridge Chamber, which I've posted about publicly,
Mm-hmm.
they do it during the holiday season. But I will also be having a mentor. I don't know who that's going to be yet, but there will be a mentor who will help me learn the ins and outs um, of the chamber board. And it was it was my director's recommendation that I apply
Mm-hmm.
after we had learned that there were a few open positions on the board, and we learned what the requirements were that could be fulfilled on my end,
Mm-hmm.
um, and and so we did it. I had help with dressing up my resume from my director, and and we, we I applied, and then within, like, I think it was after their last board meeting in early March. It was at that board meeting that they voted um, me in, along with three other individuals that got voted in as well to their board.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Congratulations. As Angeline, as I said, is at a parent teacher meeting with her husband. And so I have my glasses on so I can see. And Christy Jensen just popped in, and Julio Sato just popped in. So hello, guys. And you remember them, Brian, I'm sure. From
Yes.
very special folks. And of course, from Clubhouse too, Miss Christy, an OG
Yes.
in the social media room, one of your favorite rooms. And so,
Yes.
but that, Brian, I just, I listened to you sharing about that, and I cannot help but want to give kudos to the director because he has spearheaded and championed you as you've shared. And he's quite a guy, isn't he?
Oh yeah, very very driven,
Mm-hmm.
um, driven in um, ways that I haven't seen from previous directors. Now,
Mm-hmm.
some of this was also a little bit of a makeover of our board at
Mm-hmm.
ESW, that is, um, and being able to um, embrace new ideas, take some minor calculated risks,
Mm-hmm.
and and get things done, um, because um, I, because otherwise, if nothing had changed, then I would have really had to think about um,
Mm-hmm.
other
Yeah.
avenues,
Mm-hmm.
if in the event that the days
Right.
could have been really numbered.
Yeah.
And I don't think that the days will be numbered at this point. I will say that I used to walk to and from work for about 10 years until we moved in Thanksgiving 2018. And the reason I wanted to say this was because I haven't mentioned this during the show, but I also had my own fitness journey that started um, right after high school as well. And that was another thing that my uh, parents would later mention to me as as I'm looking for these other opportunities,
Mm-hmm.
because with having a part-time job, I have extra freedom and don't feel as tired to be able to work out. And it's kind of funny to talk about my fitness journey now because I've gained a lot over the last year plus. I'm not as lean, but I've never stopped working out.
Mm-hmm.
I just I work out differently, but also I'm getting out to more things. So um, it's not like 2021 when everything was just right at home and consistently being on Clubhouse,
Mm-hmm.
um, which I wouldn't trade it because you could be so fit, but then you could be miserable
Sure.
if that's all you're doing and you're not really connecting with people
Mm-hmm.
in person. Um, so that's that's why I enjoy going to the in-person stuff. And although I haven't really met too many Clubhouse people in real life, um, I essentially create Clubhouse in real life with the people that I'm physically around.
It's very clear, very apparent that that is so, and you really travel with you and see what you're doing. I can't see, I couldn't see, I should say, Julio's um, comment, but he just says that I can read that he is so proud of you,
We're
Brian.
pr- yeah, we're proud of you, Brian, and all of your accomplishments.
Okay,
That's
good.
what he said.
Teeny weeny, so I can't see it very clear. I can see the word proud though. And absolutely. So as we're getting ready to close, I want to ask, I guess this is a two-part question as well. Uh, because your journey has been a true evolution. One step led to the next step, but you took the first step, but you used the judgment of not taking the post office job. And again, your parents were gracious enough to not be overbearing about it and gave you your mom then guided you over to ESW, and the rest is history. Like you said, if the director had not come, you probably would have been looking for, the next step. But you now have been able to grow within the, structure with this new director. So, new director or no new director, what do you see in general for yourself in the next 2 to 3 years?
I see myself being booked for stages to speak on in person. Now, I can't make that happen on my own.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't gotten to a step of booking a hotel room or a flight on my own or anything like that. Um, but with some help and maybe with some local people who might be interested in helping me get to these places that I want to get to and taking Clubhouse to real life, um, I would love to be able to get on the stages with these people. I've seen a number of Clubhouse people getting on stage.
Mm-hmm.
There's been different expo centers from New York to Florida. We have a New Jersey Expo Center right in Edison. I don't recall there ever being a Clubhouse meetup, and I first posted about this last June.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I still have not taken the step to actually reaching out to them to try to make something work because I don't know exactly what I would be planning. Um,
Have you
but
ever thought of, though, there's an adage that I live by: start small and go big. Well, start small, dream big and go fast. I mean, so meaning you have to take that first step, don't lose that dream, but keep going. So have you ever thought of contacting, now with your notoriety and your resume expanding? I mean, I can see you speaking at local chambers and speaking at different rotaries and speaking at just different organizations and even other comparable businesses or 501c3 programs such as ESW. I mean, I can see you speaking where you can hone your craft because you really need to create your talk.
Yes. So I did speak for my Rotary Club back in July 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have not been booked for them ever since, although I have attended meetings when I can.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I have a couple of webcasts that are coming up. It's with a local person from Princeton. No, not Barbara Majeski or Molly Dare,
Mm-hmm.
but somebody else um, who I have not had a chance to meet in person,
Mm-hmm.
but she has been following my journey ever since we had been in a networking group together. Um, she's no longer in that group right now,
Mm-hmm.
although maybe there's a chance she comes back in because this particular networking group is starting a virtual chapter again. But I'm doing a couple of webcasts on April 12th and April 19th.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those are during the day. The April 12th one is 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I believe the one on the 19th is 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'm not the primary host, but I am co-hosting with this same lady, and it's going to be about neurodiversity in the workplace. I'm speaking to her company and then her daughter's company.
There you go.
So that's something small that I can do.
Yes.
And maybe there's something within the Woodbridge Chamber that they can help me with since
Mm-hmm.
I'm just
Exactly.
joined their board.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
I do believe in the small thing. I think sometimes I get too caught up in the big picture of
Right.
things,
Right.
but I definitely um, I do see the small working into something bigger. I've already seen it for myself in
Right.
my life.
Exactly.
We'll see where it goes.
But you have that goal. You have that vision. You have that goal. That is what the Propel Expansion Empowerment Challenge is all about tomorrow. You have that understanding of what you're going to step into. And there is someone saying something. And that is what it is. And you're going to take you've already taken it, but and just being on this, and you are a social media guru, you can take this, you can splice and dice it, and you can thank you putting it's probably Angeline putting that up there. She's probably back now. Thank you, my love, if that's you. But with that said, Brian, I really encourage you to not lose the dream of the Edison, because you've been speaking about that expo center since we've been talking. But start small, speak at these events, which you're already doing, but in front of others, craft your talk, and you'll be ready for the expo when the expo is ready for you. God has a way to do that.
Yes, definitely.
Hmm. So take that first step. The second and third step will be revealed to you. That's Psalm 37. Well, Brian, thank you for joining me. I just love you to pieces. You are the best. And I just really admire everything you've done, are doing, will continue to do. Please send my best to your parents. I admire them. I truly, as I said, my brother Albert is with me always. And he lives, I just want to share this, he lives in, I don't even know the town, but he had the foresight to buy this property many, many years ago. He was an electrician by trade. And when my mother had him tested at Malloy College, he was um, taking lamps and things apart. So he's always had this propensity and talent, to do electrical work. So anyway, he bought this property, and so now he's basically retired, but he lives in a modest way, and he's happy, happy, happy. So I said to him, Albert, we are going to be together before we leave this planet. So let's plan on this. And so we're going to go to New Jersey for Christmas. So we will definitely, I said to him, do you think you could get to Asheville, meaning where I don't have to fly and pick you up and get you there? And he said, no, I can get a ride to Asheville. So to fly to New Jersey. So we will see you. And I look forward, because Albert DiMartino has been my champion all my entire life, and has been the crystallization of, as I said, my superpower is the ability to see others and that empathy. So thank you, Al, for all you've given me. And thank you, Brian, for continuing that on. And I am here for you. You know that. And so I'm thrilled that you were with me this first Wednesday of April, Autism Awareness Month. And you just go and make it a fabulous month in everything you're doing, Brian. And Julio and all of us cannot wait to see what's next. So thank you, sir. And why don't you wait in the green room, and we'll connect after we finish. If this is Angeline, she'll be able to do that. If not, you stay here. Okay?
Okay. Thank you,
Okay.
Megan.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Wow, wow, wow. What a special, special evening with my dear friend Brian Colletto, and what an inspiration for us all to start and never stop, and listen to those messages that we get, just as he did when he said no to the post office. He knew, as he knew, it was not for him. So listen to that still, quiet, small voice. That is why I've built this Propel community, building it, I should say, with you, and every step of the way. And tomorrow, and Angeline has it up on the screen with the sign up for the Propel expansion. And that's what Brian has done for his entire life. Take that first step, that Propel expansion empowerment challenge. And we're going to challenge you, myself and my guests, to see, just as Brian has done, that vision, that goal, that mission that has been quietly in you, those embers, and that they will continue to evolve. And my guests will share their stories, but also we'll be speaking about your identity, and we'll be speaking about your field of favor, and sharing things that you may not have thought about recently, or maybe never, but give you that challenge and tools to start, scale, sustain the business and life of your dreams. Thank you so much for joining us. And I assume it's an assumption because I can't really discern what's up there. I can see the empowerment challenge, but do join the Propel community. And if it isn't up there, it's all in all of our different postings of, to join the Propel community, because you will get all of this information on an ongoing basis where you won't miss a thing. So we'll see you tomorrow, hopefully, on the Propel expansion, expand that over that horizon, Propel expansion empowerment challenge, 10 a.m. Eastern through 3 p.m. Be blessed. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Hello, peace. Hello.